No, they weren't there. Please be reminded that we need to come out to Bible class. We have a rich and vibrant Bible class. Wonderful, wonderful. So just want to give you a small welcome. Good evening and welcome to each and every one to our Men's Ministries Weekend, Men at Work, Men Under Construction. And we've been having a wonderful time here from last night till this morning till now. I'm going to ask my choristers, Brother Good and Brother Otti, to come and give us a beautiful hymn, after which you'll see me again shortly, and we'll continue with the program.
All right, good evening again. And please join us as we sing hymn 518. Please stand with us as we sing 518, standing on the promises of Christ, my King. Standing on the promises of Christ, my King, through eternal ages let His praises ring. Glory in the highest I will shout and sing, standing on the promises of God. Standing on the promises of Christ, my Savior. Standing. I am standing on the promises of God. Standing on the promises that cannot fail. When the hope fears assail, by the living word of God I shall prevail. Standing on the promises of God. Standing on the promises of Christ, my Savior. Standing. I am standing on the promises of God. Standing on the promises of Christ the Lord, bound to Him eternally by love's strong cord, overcoming daily in the Spirit's sword, standing on the promises of God. Standing on the promises of Christ, my Savior. I'm standing on the promises of God.
Just bow your heads for prayer. Great God of heaven, the creator of all mankind, things seen and unseen is created by your hands. You have given us life and life more abundantly in Jesus Christ. We thank you for this holy Sabbath day. We thank you that we are able to take a pause from life's ups and downs and battles, and come into your house to give you thanks and praise. You have been gracious unto us even up until now. And as we go into this evening session, you have sent us here, your manservant, Dr. Evans, and we pray, Father, that you will endue him with power from on high, that you will give him the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of which to give unto us in a way that we would understand it. Father, help us when we have heard truth, not to be stiff-necked, but make it applicable to our lives. These and other mentioned mercies we do ask in Jesus' holy name. And the church says, please be seated. Again, this evening, our host and co-host will be the Fosters, Dale and Jadine, and I will turn it over to them. Thank you very much. And also we have here the man of the moment, Dr. Evans.
Good evening, AY. Can everybody hear us clearly? It is a privilege. And I just want to say a special thank you to the men's department for allowing me as a woman to be part of their program today. Today with me is my husband. Everybody knows him. He's Brother Foster. And of course, our speaker of the hour, Dr. Evans, who will be answering some questions that were submitted. Now, I know Elder Campbell already prayed, but I would just like to whisper a word of prayer before we start. Dear Father, we thank you for this moment in time. We ability to come before your presence once more. We ask that whatever is about to take part here may be done to your name, honor, and glory. Help Dale and I to be able to ask the questions that the church needs, the help for the answers that they require. Please help us to do everything to your name, honor, and glory, and be with Dr. Evans as he's about to be asked so many questions that he will be able to give us the right answers that we need to help us as a church to continue to grow towards health and wellness. Thank you for your grace, your mercy, and your loving kindness towards us, we pray in your holy name. Amen. So let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Evans. For those of you who were here this morning and last night, he needs no introduction. But especially for those who may be online, who are tuning in now, or who may be tuning in later, Dr. Evans is a medical doctor who specializes in the field of urology. He has ran a private practice for over 32 years, both here in South Florida and the Bahamas. He has been a presenter at the Florida Men's Ministry Convention since its inception. Dr. Evans is no stranger to the Sunrise Church, as he was the first presenter for their men's ministry program over 25 years ago. He has had countless successful stories of treating patients with various urological issues. He is a husband, a father, and a grandfather. He's very active in his community and society at large. World-renowned Dr. Evans wants men and women to be healthy and will clear up many myths and misconceptions for us today. He has written a lot and has 2 popular books on the market. One is called 161 Sexual Myths and A Simple Plan to Prevent Cancer, available in the paperback or the ebook. He's currently writing a question and answer book, which is coming out soon, and hopefully Sunrise will be part of that question and answer book, as we have over 45 questions for him to answer for us today. So, without further ado, I'm going to have my husband talk to you a little bit, and then we'll talk to Dr. Evans.
Okay. Right, Dr. Evans, before we go into the questions, could you just give us a brief history of why you became a urologist, your education journey?
think I heard something over here. Can you repeat that, please? The question is, why did I become a urologist? First, let me tell you what a urologist is. I'm asked that question quite often. What's a urologist? Now, the brief answer is, a urologist is a person who deals with anything that urine runs through. Basically, that's a urologist. Now, more officially, the urologist deals with problems of the urinary system in females. Now, that's important. So I see lots of females. The urologist also deals with problems of the urinary and reproductive systems in males. Now, I want to clear up a little thing here, why that difference. In females, the urinary and reproductive systems are two completely separate systems. So I have some cousins called the gynecologists who deal with the reproductive system or problems in females. I don't mess with the reproductive systems in females. I deal with their urinary problems. And men, believe it or not, women do have plumbing problems too. In males, the reproductive and the urinary systems all in one. It's the same system. So the urologist handles both sides of those problems in males, reproductive problems and urinary problems in males. Also, the urologist, as some folk may think, deals only with old men. Many people believe that. Urologists only see old men. No, that's not correct. Urologist deals with problems from infancy to old age. So I see many young children, even babies, with problems, and you'd be surprised at how many problems babies can have, as well as young men. Yes, young men get sick too, and old men, like myself.
So there is one very hot topic that was just submitted to us on arrival to the church from the box. And so we're going to open with that question. Some of the things that we might mention may seem like they might have a sense of, might make someone laugh or smile, but these are serious issues that are affecting individuals. So as we go through these questions, we're going to ask to make sure everybody respects the questions that are asked. And so Dr. Evans can have the time to expound on them, okay? So this question is, I have a very itchy scrotum. What could be the cause? I itch it so bad that it cuts my skin.
Now, I think I heard you say an itchy scrotum.
Yes, sir.
The scrotum refers to the sac in a male. Now, women don't have scrotums. This is the sac that contains the testicles, the reproductive organs that produce the sperm in males. And the question is concerning itching of the scrotum. Now, anything that irritates the skin can cause itching, any part of the body, especially the scrotum. And there are a number of things that can do that. It may be because a person is allergic to something. By the way, these allergies can occur from infancy on up in age. So allergies notoriously causes this kind of problem. Infections can cause itching of the sac or the scrotum. Also, if a person has some kind of injury, an abrasion can cause itching of the scrotum. There are a number of skin problems, a lot of skin problems that can cause itching of the skin even in the scrotum. There are things a person may eat that can cause itching of the scrotum. If this is happening and a person doesn't know obviously why it's happening, I would recommend seeing not a urologist, but a dermatologist. The dermatologist is the skin specialist. And oftentimes individuals come to me because it's happening in that part of the body, but the real problem is something that the skin doctor deals with. So I would suggest if it's happening to you and you don't know why, see a skin specialist.
Thanks, Dr. Evans. Right. In your presentation on Friday, you inferred that breast and prostate cancer were similar, and that prostate cancer was the second killer of men next to lung cancer. Does race, culture, or the country that you live in have anything to do with the detection, the prevention of cancer-related issues in both men and women?
That's a very interesting question. Do these things just mentioned have anything to do with the man getting cancer? And the answer is yes. What you just mentioned are what we call risk factors for getting cancer. There are a number of risk factors as stated. For example, does race have anything to do with man getting cancer? It's a big risk factor. We know that black men are more prone to getting prostate cancer than white men. Japanese men in Japan hardly come down with prostate cancer until recently. So demographics, or where a person lives, is a risk factor for getting prostate cancer. Age is a factor. Under the age of 40, prostate cancer is virtually unheard of. The youngest person I've seen with prostate cancer is 43 years of age. As a man gets older, the risk of getting prostate cancer increases, such that by the age of 80, almost 80% of men are at risk for getting prostate cancer. So these are various risk factors: the diet, lifestyle. All of these factors are risk factors. But a risk factor is not a cause of prostate cancer. You can be black as midnight. That's not going to cause you to get cancer. You can live in any country in the world. That's not going to cause you to get prostate cancer, but it may put you at risk. Now, what's the difference? As I said, there are things that are common among men who get prostate cancer, but not necessarily the cause. So if that is the case, why then is it that the majority of men who have prostate cancer are black men? For example, one of the highest rates of prostate cancer in the world was found to be in Kingston, Jamaica.
What?
Now, why Kingston? Now, I didn't say Montego Bay. I didn't say Ocho Rios. I said Kingston. Well, a team of researchers from Harvard University went to Kingston and investigated this. So if we look at the risk factor, we can say that living in Kingston is a risk factor for getting prostate cancer. But what about the cause? What's the cause of it? Why do men actually come down with this? Well, the research team discovered this about Kingston. There is a business in Kingston that sells more fried chicken than anywhere else in the world. Now, you may recall what I said last night about prostate cancer, and I repeated it this morning. I've seen thousands of men over the past 43 years. Incidentally, I've been in practice 43 years rather than just 32. I have never seen a man with prostate cancer who didn't eat chicken. I'll leave that there right now.
All right, well, the cancer topic is a very hot topic on this list. It says, why do men and women treat early detection differently? And then I'm going to also ask you another one so that you can group the answers together. We have often heard of cancer treatment, and in some cases, the cancer returns. Can cancer be cured?
Can cancer be cured? This is another very, very important question, because so many people think if I get cancer, that's a death sentence. Sunrise, listen to me. I was diagnosed with cancer in 1999, prostate cancer, and I'm a urologist. That's one of the things that got me so much interested in doing something about prostate cancer. And that is one of the reasons why I can tell you this evening, prostate cancer is preventable and it is curable, especially if it's caught early. Now, my research And my results and my belief is that not only can early cancer, in the case of prostate, not only can the early cancer be cured, I believe late cancer of the prostate can also be cured. Now, I think I mentioned last night that I developed a formula for treating advanced, late-stage, terminal prostate cancer. And I've had a number of patients who were in very bad shape, very bad. In fact, their urologist gave up on them and said they were nearing death. In one case, even days away. Now, in the medical profession, we talk a lot about survival rates. 5-year survival rates, 1-year survival rates. In the case of cancer, we talk about surviving beyond X number of weeks, and that's considered success. Well, I believe in the case of prostate cancer, and I've proven this, that although a man has widespread cancer, terminal cancer, I take those kinds of men and they live years later. I think there's a lot can be done in the case of prostate cancer. I don't give up on anybody.
Would you say that the treatment of prostate cancer pose the same risk as if the individual did not receive any treatment?
I didn't quite hear that.
Right. I'm saying, does the treatment of prostate cancer pose the same risk, would you say, as an individual who does not receive treatment?
Cancer is a killer. It kills people. 500,000 people die every year in the United States from cancer. So it's a bad disease. It's a killer. Untreated cancer will kill you. If there's cancer, no matter what kind of cancer, the appropriate treatment is very important. And there are some things about the treatment of cancer that you should know about. For example, there is a little simple vitamin that almost every cancer patient is deficient in. Yes, someone just said it. I've got some good students in here. Vitamin D. In my opinion, there's no such thing as treating cancer without vitamin D. Now, most doctors will disagree with that. I had a doctor tell my wife recently, don't take vitamin D. If I tell her your story, her story, you'll understand why. My wife had 2 sisters, and she had only 2 sisters. She had 2 sisters who died from cancer. She's had a couple of brothers who died from cancer. A few years ago, she came down with a lump in her breast. Now imagine how she felt. But I told her, don't worry about it. One of the things I told her to take is vitamin D, along with other substances from plants, as I mentioned this morning. And watch your lifestyle, meaning watch what you eat. Don't eat an animal-based diet. Eat a plant-based diet. Recently, I was talking to her, and she had forgotten that she ever had a lump in her breast. She gets mammograms every year and all that. Her breast is free of everything, including cancer. Did you hear what I said? Yes. Treatment is important. The correct treatment is important. So in directly answering your question, it's important to properly treat any cancer that a person may have.
So we're going to ask one more question in regards to the cancer segment, and then we're going to go to another segment, and we can come back to that segment since there's so many questions about cancer. Is it a myth or a fact that we all have cancer cells in our body? And we heard you talk about different things that might encourage cancer, different foods. but do plastics, pesticides, dairy, meats injected with hormones add to the cancer issue? A two-part question for you. So is it a myth or fact that we all have cancer cells in our body? And does plastics, pesticides, dairy, meats injected with hormones add to the cancer issue?
The first question of whether we are born with cancer cells in our body, the answer is simply no. It's a myth that we are born with cancer cells. No, we're not. If that were the case, all of us would be in trouble with cancer. The fact is, most cases of cancer are due to your lifestyle. In other words, most cases of cancer are caused by things that we do to ourselves, things that we put into our bodies that cause cancer. Whether it's the food we eat, the polluted air we breathe, incorrect things we take in for whatever reason that lead to cancer, exposures to certain factors like radiation and what have you. Most cases of cancer are caused by things that can be identified, not by what you're born with. Only about 5% of cancers can be blamed on heredity. So individuals who come down with cancer is not due to mama or daddy. And we're not born with it. Now, if that is true, why then the cancer tends to run in families? Like prostate cancer. And I keep talking about prostate because I'm a urologist. If a man has a father or a brother or an uncle who had prostate cancer, he is 4 times as likely to come down with prostate cancer himself. But it's not inherited. Now, how do we explain that? You see, individuals in the same family are likely eating similar food, or should I say the wrong food. You see, they're likely to be exposed to similar carcinogens. Those are things that cause cancer. The lifestyle are likely to be similar. That's why they are all more likely to come down with the same cancer. That's the reason. It's not that they are born with it, you see. In other words, in most cases of cancer, it's your lifestyle that causes the problem more than anything else.
Thank you. All right. This question is dubbed the old age question. It's asking, why are there no men in the age range of 25 to 35 to marry? And where am I supposed to look?
I'm not sure I understood it. You said age 25 to 35 for what?
To marry.
Get married?
Right.
Why are there no men?
Why there are no men in that age range?
For the individual to be able to be married. It's a woman posing this question. Why are there no men in that age range?
I need a little clarification here. I'm not sure I'm understanding the question. It sounds like an important question, so I've got to make sure I understand this. Why is it that there are no men
In this,
that age group?
This individual posed the question, and I'm assuming female because there were 2 similar questions, 2 different handwritings. And it said, why are there no men to marry? Where am I supposed to look? And in brackets it said, age range of 25 to 35.
You're probably looking in the wrong place. There are lots of men aged 25 to 35 around. Now, there may not be many where you are, but they're around, lots of them. There was a time when I was that age. I hope I answered that question. Now, if there's some other aspect of that question, please come back and ask again.
So before we continue, I see hands raised. What I would like for you to do, if you do have a question, please see Brother Campbell and have him write the question down for him and have him submit it to us so that we can present it to Dr. Evans, okay? Just so we can have the flow continue. Since the pandemic, doctor, has there been an influx of patients with urological issues connected to mental health?
COVID did not cause an increase in neurological problems per se. Now, we know that COVID can affect the human being in many, many different ways. But urological problems are not necessarily more prone to the effects of COVID than other systems of the body. So COVID did not pose any particular challenge in my practice. And I did not see an influx of patients because of COVID.
Okay, that is wonderful to know.
Right, another question. Can itchy eyes and itchy nose be the result of something gone bad in the urinary tract?
The reason I'm smiling is I wonder what in the world was that person looking at? No, very unlikely, very unlikely.
So like I said, you have to bear with us. These are real questions that were posted, and we are going to making sure that we have been able to ask Dr. Evans every question that was posted. Even if we might not think that it might be relevant to us, it is relevant to someone. So thank you, doctor, for expanding on that for us. And so what I want to do next is, we heard you briefly discuss some questions that were posed prior to hearing your talk last night. So for the younger ones that might be here in the audience, I know last night we were careful about saying certain things. We're going to define this. Premature ejaculation is PE, and erectile dysfunction is going to be referred to as ED, because there are many questions regarding this. So instead of repeating the name multiple times, when you hear me say PE, it's premature ejaculation, and when I say ED, it's erectile dysfunction. This topic, doctor, is a very explosive topic. Many questions have been placed on this subject. So we are going to get into the nuts and bolts of it. So correct us if we are wrong, Dr. Evans. Simply put, is the prostate the switch between ejaculation and urination?
The prostate is important when it comes to urination. You see, the prostate is a gland about the size of a walnut, weighs about 1 gram, and a very small organ that sits just beneath the urinary bladder. It has a channel through the middle of the gland, like a hole in a donut. When a male urinates, the urine leaves the bladder and goes through the prostate and on out through a channel called the urethra. That's the passage through the penis, taking the urine to the outside of the body. So in any kind of problems that involve the prostate can affect a man's ability to pass urine. So the prostate is important when it comes to urinary problems and can cause problems on urination. One of the differences with that and a man's male sexual performance is that many men blame the prostate for sexual problems when the prostate has nothing to do with it. The prostate is not necessary for a man's erections. Let me repeat that. That's important. The prostate is not necessary for a man's erections. As a matter of fact, some men have erections and don't even have a prostate because the prostate's been taken out, but they are capable of having erections. Now, so far as his sexual performance is concerned, there are other things and systems that are active and necessary. If a man has certain problems like diabetes, hypertension, and these kinds of things, he may have problems because those things affect his blood. Those things affect his blood circulation, and the blood circulation is what's important, along with the chemistry of his body, like what happens with his hormones. Some men have problems because of lowering of the hormones, in his body, or something may go wrong with the nerves of his bodies. In fact, let me tell you, gentlemen, in order for you to have a normal erection, there are 5 things that must happen. Now, we guys tend to take erections lightly. We see something looks good and boom, it's up. It's not that simple. In order to have a normal erection, a man, first of all, number 1, must have the equipment. Now, did I lose anybody when I said the equipment? Oh, I didn't? Good. I'm glad you're following me. In other words, the anatomy, the structure of his male organ must be intact to have a normal erection. Number 2, blood flow. Anything that affects a man's blood flow can affect his erection, whether it's an illness or anything else that affects his blood flow. If blood doesn't flow into that organ faster than it's flowing out, then he has a problem. Thirdly, the nerves. There are 2 nerves that run along the back of the prostate gland to the penis. If anything happens to those nerves, he can have a problem. Then there's a 4th one, the chemistry of his body. In other words, his hormones must be functioning properly. He needs to have the proper hormone levels circulating in his bloodstream in order to have normal erections. So there are 4 of them, not 5 yet. I'll tell you in a moment. The structure must be intact. The blood flow must be correct. His nerves must be working properly. His hormones must be properly at a proper level. But there's a 5th one that override all of those and shut them down. That's the psychologic. And let me hasten to say this. Most problems of erectile dysfunction are not psychologic. Only 10% of cases can be blamed on the psychologic. Let me give you an illustration of the psychologic at work. A fella is watching the NBA, or let's say the football, the NFL, championship game, Super Bowl. The game has been exciting. The 4th quarter, 5 minutes to go, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, 15 seconds to go in the game. And this fellow is watching intently because only 15 seconds to go in the game, and the game is tied 3-3. And his team has the ball on the 1-yard line. And his team has the ball, 1 yard to go. The score is tied only 3-3. What's going to happen? The quarterback steps up behind the center. And just as he is about to snap the ball, this fellow's significant other walks into the room in a see-through negligee. Now, what do you think he's going to see? Is he going to see the next play or see her? I can tell you what he's going to see. He'd do the same thing I would do. I'd watch that last play of the game. I wouldn't even see her. And chances are he wouldn't either. Do you think he would get an erection at that moment? No. That's the psychologic at work. You see? So the psychologic can override all of those other factors. That's how complicated getting an erection is, that most of us take for granted, especially us fellows take for granted. But an erection is a complicated, complex, hemodynamic, hydraulic event. We take it for granted. You see? I think that answers part of your question, right?
Well, as a rider to that one, this one comes in real close behind. It says, is it a fact or myth that frequent ejaculation will put men at risk for prostate cancer?
Okay. The question being asked is, if a man has premature ejaculation...
No, frequent.
Oh, frequent ejaculation. Okay. The reason a lot of people think that is because there was a time when, now I'm going to say this as carefully as I can, there was a time when it was believed that the reason why not most black men, but most men who have prostate cancer were black men, it was thought. And one of the reasons was frequent ejaculation. Science has proven, scientific research has proven that to be incorrect. That is not true. Any man can come down with prostate cancer. Whether you're white, black, or polka dot, you can come down with prostate cancer. It has nothing to do with the frequency or lack of frequency of ejaculation. Now, something was mentioned, part of the question a moment ago was concerning this premature ejaculation. Premature ejaculation, I define as a person who shoots before he dribbles. Did I lose you? Okay, all right. That's premature ejaculation. Why does that happen? In most cases, we do not know. However, there are some conditions that will make a man more likely to come down with premature ejaculation. It may be psychologic. It may be due to depression. It may be due to a number of things, including what you eat and drink. For example, there are individuals who come to me with premature ejaculation because the prostate gland is irritated. So that area is more sensitive and it's triggered more easily. One of the things that I found that's common in many men with this problem is they're drinking coffee or lots of Coca-Cola. Now, I'm usually hesitant to mention brand names when I'm talking publicly. Now, I'm not putting down Coca-Cola for that reason, but I just want to point that out. The problem is not the Coca-Cola, the problem is the caffeine. Any caffeinated drink, whether it's coffee, tea, or any of the cola drinks. If men who have this problem, due to caffeine, would get off the caffeinated drinks, it sometimes solves their problems. One of the things I found in some men is that a man may have to be given a medication to get their nervous system calmed down before they go into having sex. For some men, this works. Some men have to have special psychotherapy in order to overcome this problem. But I want to hasten to say that in most cases that I've dealt with, it's a problem that can be helped. So gentlemen, I want to point out that if it is happening to you, don't give up. Don't think you cannot be helped. In most cases, this problem can be corrected.
So, in your estimation, what would be the shortest length of time that it would be considered premature?
This depends on the person. Each person is different. It's an important question. Now, some folk may take 5 minutes or an hour. Bless his heart. Or should I say, bless her heart? No, that differs from person to person. And what is normal for one person is quite abnormal for another person. Mm-hmm.
So, Dr. Evans, before we switch to the next topic, is PE or ED common? And what are some things that prevent men from seeking help for this?
These problems are very common. And as a urologist, these are problems that I deal with quite frequently. And you'd be surprised of how many men, not only older men, young men as well, have this problem. These problems, I should say. So a urologist deals with these things on a daily basis, you see? And the important thing is that most of the time these problems can be helped, you see? The most important thing is probably to find out why a person is having these problems. Now, generally speaking, men don't like going to doctors. Women, oh yes, she wants to live long, so she's going to go to the doctor and see about herself. A lot of men just like to feel that they're macho. They don't need the doctor. Or they can handle it themselves. They can get over the problem without help. Well, you're human. And things go wrong with human beings. Like the Bible says, we've all sinned and come short of a lot of things. So if something is going wrong, gentlemen, I urge you, seek medical help. Most of the times we can help these problems. You see?
So these next three questions are connected, so we'll give Dr. Evans a chance to reflect on them so he can answer them as best as possible for us. In today's society, is God's way of one man, one woman still the best, or is it relevant? Also, is having multiple partners good for men and women's health?
I don't know what the person had in mind in asking this question, but I'm going to answer it this way. God knew what was best for us, and he still does. He still knows what's best. What I've found is, if you do things God's way, you're very unlikely to have a problem. And if you run into a problem, all you have to do is put it in God's hands. He'll solve it. Now, in today's world, there are a whole lot of things going on with human beings from a social perspective. As Seventh-day Adventists, we understand these things because we understand prophecy. We know that there are certain things that will be taking place in the world before Christ returns. So when we see a lot of things happening, we don't become too excited because we know these things will happen and we expect them to happen. As a matter of fact, when we see these things happening, we know that the second coming is near. There's a whole lot of sexual confusion in the world today. Not only in a highly developed society like America, but it's happening around the world. Men are becoming confused about their partners or who their partners should be. Some men are better off not having a partner. And some women are too. Now, sometimes people ask me, because I'm a urologist, for some reason they think I should have some opinion about these matters. Well, as a urologist, I don't usually deal with those matters, but if the question comes up, I'll answer it. Here in America, we talk about freedom a lot. Sometimes I wonder if you're really free in this country, you know? Free to love who you want to love. Even the President of the United States has opinions about these questions. I think a person should be free to love who he or she wants to. If you love coconuts and you want to fall in love with a coconut tree, more power to you. Now, I hope you understood what I just said. But you have to give an account for who you love. I tell my patients, I'm careful in practicing urology because I have to answer to a higher authority. And I don't mean the authorities in the country. I have to answer to the man above. So I'm very careful at how I handle my patients and the things I say to my patients. That's why every patient I have has my home number. Everyone, all of my patients have my home number and my cell number, because I have to answer to God for that patient. And I insist on keeping my conscience clear. You see? Likewise, with the question that you're asking, God said one person. He knew why he said one person, and God can't be wrong. And so my answer to the question is, do it God's way, and you can't go wrong.
Amen. So we've learned that about 80% of cholesterol is produced in the body. It's so important for many functions, including the production of sex hormones such as testosterone. Have you, in your years of practice, found the balance between decreasing cholesterol for cardiovascular health and maintaining it at an ideal level for vitality, including male reproductive health?
The question of cholesterol is very important. Cholesterol is important in the body, and it has very specific functions, like the production of hormones, etc. Also, cholesterol is part of the repair mechanism for injuries in the body, particularly in blood vessels. But cholesterol, like anything else, too much of anything is good for nothing. Too much cholesterol causes problems. Now, if a person has a level of cholesterol that is higher than normal, he can have problems because of that, like clogging of blood vessels, hardening of the arteries, heart problems, etc., etc. Even skin problems from too much cholesterol. Well, we know what the normal level of the cholesterol should be in the blood. And we can check the blood to find out what your cholesterol level is. The body produces cholesterol. The liver produces cholesterol. But there is a normal limit to how much it should be producing. It is rare for the liver to make too much cholesterol. That's not common. But it's very, very common to find individuals whose bloodstream has too much cholesterol. Now, what's the difference? Most individuals who have too much cholesterol have a high level of cholesterol because they're taking in too much cholesterol. And interestingly, we know that cholesterol only has one source. It only comes from animals. In most cases, where the cholesterol level is too high, it's too high because you're eating the wrong thing from the wrong source. I don't prescribe cholesterol medicines to my patients because I don't like the side effects of the medicines that people take for cholesterol. And I don't like side effects. To me, it's like having another illness. Also, cholesterol medicines are expensive. Not only that, those medicines, most of them, tend to reduce an important substance in the body called CoQ10 that I mentioned last night. CoQ10 is important for the functioning of your heart and other muscles in the body. So I don't like those kind of medications, so I don't prescribe them. So how do I get cholesterol down in my patients who have high cholesterol levels? I tell them you only need to know one thing. You need to know where it came from and cut off the source. And if it comes from only one place, yes, cut off the source. And that one place, animals. Now, in the case of the individual, and this is rare, an individual who is producing too much cholesterol himself, there are medical ways of dealing with that. That's where the medical internists come in.
Well, Dr. Evans, we thank you so much for everything that you have been doing so far in answering our questions. We are going to switch a little bit to some questions that are affecting our females. Now, there are many things that affect both men and women. One or two of these will be for both of the sexes. But right now, I'm going to pose this one for Dr. Evans. It says, in my late 50s, I'm sorry, let me repeat that again. I'm in my late 50s, and I have a period. But I'm experiencing night sweats, hot flashes, low energy, and sometimes I even cannot sleep. Doctor, is there any solution that you can tell me so I can get some help, please?
Now, I'm going to tell you this very quickly. You need to see your gynecologist. Now, why am I saying that so quickly? I am not a gynecologist. I don't know gynecology, and I'm not going to pretend to. As a urologist, I do not deal with female reproductive problems. Problems of the reproductive system in females are dealt with by the gynecologist. So I do not have the knowledge of gynecology that a gynecologist would have. If there's a urological problem in a female, I'll deal with that with my eyes closed, but not gynecologic problems. Now, interestingly, before I became a urologist, a lot of folk in my family and my friends urged me to become a gynecologist. Like some folks said, women gonna have babies forever. You'll never get out of work.
So why didn't you become a gynecologist?
Okay. There's a reason why I did not become a gynecologist. I thought about it, and as a medical student in Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami, I will never forget the night I delivered 5 babies. I decided that night, that's not for me.
Thank you so much for your honesty. Many professions have been changed by things like that, yes, experiences like that, yes. On that subject, I know you said that gynecology is not your specialty, but I know you have a wide range of expertise with over 43 years or more of experience. What causes fibroids, and why is it found mostly in Caribbean women, is the question that was asked.
Someone asked that question and just taught me something. I didn't even know that. Mostly Caribbean women who have fibroids.
That's what it says.
That just goes to show gynecology is not my field. No. Why do women get fibroids? And my answer is, I don't know. That's out of my area of expertise.
Well, we thank you for that. We know that you have some expertise in regards to women's health as far as it comes to breast cancer. So can you explain what the dense breast is and the effect it has on the woman, and also the cause of the dense breast?
Again, that's out of my area of expertise.
Right.
Remember what I said. I specialize in anything that urine runs through.
That's right.
Now, that's too far above the waistline.
Well, we thank you, doctor.
So I'm not going to attempt to answer that. But let me say this.
Yes.
Something that I do know about the breast in females. A lot of women have problems from drinking coffee and other caffeinated drinks, because we know that caffeine can cause fibrocystic breast disease. I just want to say, be careful with what you drink.
Thank you.
Alrighty, next question. My prostate was removed in 2018. I have had urinary and ED since the operation. Can this be helped?
The question is concerning a gentleman whose prostate was removed in 2018 and its effect on his sexual life. It is not uncommon that if a man has his prostate removed, that he may lose his potency or his ability to have erections. Usually this happens because during the operation to remove the prostate, the nerves, remember I mentioned a moment ago, 2 nerves that run along the back of the prostate, run to the penis. Those nerves control erections. If those nerves are damaged during the operation, it is quite likely that a man will lose his ability to have erections. If this happens to a man, that does not mean his sex life is finished. We have solutions for that. Right now, I have a patient who had that problem, and I've corrected the problem, and I'm now trying to get him to slow down. So, yes, there are ways of correcting the problem if it comes up. Now, gentlemen, I'm going to take a moment and explain something about this thing called erections and correcting the problem. There are many, many, many reasons why a man may have a problem with erections. Prostate surgery for cancer is only one of the times that a man may have this problem of getting an erection. Well, what do we do about it? Prior to 1998, there really wasn't very much we can do about it. Now, most of us know about or have heard or have used the blue pill. Yes, I'm talking about, yes, that's the one, Viagra. How did that come about? Viagra has a substance in it called sildenafil. Sildenafil was a substance that was used to treat men and women, but men with chest pains from heart problems. It was observed that older men who took sildenafil got rid of the chest pains. It helped them with their heart problems. But these older men were getting erections. Now, being the good businessmen as they were, I'm talking about the manufacturer of sildenafil, what they did was they took the sildenafil, put it in a tablet form, changed the color, changed the shape, changed the name, and called it Viagra. That's how Viagra came about. Viagra, or the substance in Viagra, was something that was good for the heart. Many people think that Viagra kills people because it causes heart problems. No, it doesn't. It protects the heart. It lowers the blood pressure. That's why an individual taking Viagra shouldn't drink alcohol with it, because it can lower the blood pressure too much. So, no, it's not true that it's bad for the heart. Now, this stuff called sildenafil is one of the most widely sold drugs on the market today, because it's one of the things that helps with this problem of erections. There are 3 levels of treatment for men who have a problem getting it up. The first treatment level is taking medication orally, things that you take by mouth. Now, there may be chemicals. Now we know we have substances other than sildenafil that can also help a man get an erection. If you take something by mouth, like sildenafil, or a natural substance like a herbal product, it may help you. And there are a number of natural herbal products that will work. Sometimes they don't work, no matter what you take. Well, if that is the case, then we go to a second level of treatment. Injections. There are medications that we can give by injections that work. Most of the time they work. So fellas, there's hope for you. Most of the time the injections work, but occasionally they don't work either. Now, I usually tell my patients, my male patients, if you're not getting erections, we can always get it up, even if we have to prop it up. Now, what do I mean by that? There is a third level of treatment that works. It works. You see, there is something called a penile prosthesis. This is a mechanical device that we can actually implant into the penis, and it will work. It will give you an erection. Now, I happen to be fortunate in that the person, the doctor, one of my professors in medical school, one of the inventors of the penile prosthesis, and he is the person who got me interested in urology. He is the person who advised me that there had never been a urologist in the Bahamas. And because I was born in the Bahamas, he said, why don't you become the first one? I took his advice and became the first urologist in the Bahamas.
All right, doctor, I just want to ask you a question. I have seen, and talking to the young people now, this can happen to the older ones. I have seen young men lose their testicles because they didn't tell someone that they were having testicular pain. Can you expand on that and what the importance of it is of when you have pain in the testicles to say something?
Testicular pain is important. It could be the sign of a serious affliction, and it can happen at any age, from infancy through old age. especially when it happens suddenly. Oftentimes, this happens after a male has been active, like playing basketball or running track or this type of thing. There is a condition called torsion. Now, the word torsion means twisting. This is a condition where the testicle suddenly twists in the sac. Now, this twisting of the testicle is important because along with the testicle itself twisting, it means the blood vessels and nerves going through the testicle also become twisted. And the twisting of the blood vessel cuts off the blood supply to the testicle. When this happens, and it's a very, very painful condition, it is important to untwist the testicle to preserve the blood supply to the testicle. Now, this untwisting has to be done within a certain period of time, because if it's not done quickly enough, the testicle dies. And if the testicle is dead, it needs to be removed. So when pain is felt in the testicle, that person needs to see a urologist as soon as possible, especially if it's a young person. See? So torsion is a serious condition. It's correctable, easily corrected by a urologist, easily recognized by a urologist. Now, one of the things important about that is sometimes a person, a male, young or old, may have a painful condition in the scrotum, in the sac, in the testicle, but it's not torsion. It could be something else. The urologist is trained to recognize the difference in whether it's from a torsion or something else. Certain infections can cause very, very painful conditions of the testicle, but the urologist knows how to recognize the difference. If you have pain in your testicular area, see a urologist if you don't know why. As a matter of fact, even if you know why, you'd be wise to see a urologist.
Okay, what role does water play in having bowel movements and healthy urinary tract?
Why is water so important in the urinary tract and also for bowel movements? Water is the most abundant substance in the human body. Our bodies are between 60 and 70% water. So there's something important about water in the human body. All functions of the human body require water. Everything that happens in you happens in water. Everything that's taken into the body must be miscible or mixable in water in order to function in the body. That is so important that everything that you take in, even your medicines, have to go to the body's laboratory. That's called the liver. And the liver converts whatever you take in to a form that will mix in water, then sends it out to other parts of the body where it works. So water is very, very important. It's important that you drink enough water. You should drink some water every day. The brain is mostly water. Water is important for the blood. The blood volume is based on water. The production of hormones and other substances in the body based on the functioning of water in the body. The most important thing in you is water. We cannot overemphasize the importance of water in the human body. It keeps our systems working. The passing of stool, constipation is mostly a lack of water. And the best thing that you can do for constipation is to drink water. Not necessarily a laxative. It usually indicates that you need to drink water. Very, very important. We cannot emphasize that enough.
So we are going to ask one last question, and then we're going to take a break, and then Brother Daly is going to come up, and he's going to sing for us. So the last question that we are going to take at this time before we come back to the next segment, and just make sure you get your last questions in because we want to make sure we have enough time before the sun sets for Dr. Evans to expand on them. And we hope so far you have been getting some answers to your questions. This question, is it okay to talk about sex in church? As there is a stigma on the word sex that prevents individuals who may need it, who have probably contracted a sexually transmitted disease, to ask for help.
The question of talking about sex in church. Now, I heard in church that God made me. I heard that in church, that God made me a sexual being. And where else should I talk about God other than in church? So there must be a connection. There's something else. When it comes to our young people, the best place for training our young people is in church. And the best place for teaching our young people the right way to think about things and the right way to do things is in church. Too many of our young people learn things the wrong way and learn the wrong things out of church. Then in church, we expect them to know what's right. Church is where we should learn most of these things. Also, church is the place where we know how to properly talk about sex and sexual matters. So I don't see anything wrong with talking about sex in church. In fact, we'd better start doing it if we don't, because the way the world is going today, the church may be the only place where our young people get the right information.
All right, so far we want to thank Dr. Evans. Everybody say amen. Amen. At this time, Brother Daly will come and we'll take a brief moment.
God's children too long have been burdened. They are longing for heaven's green shore, where heartaches are left far behind them, and burdens are carried no more. Come morning, I walk by the river. I'll rest near the evergreen tree. So I carry my cross through the midnight. Come morning, there's glory for me. Sometimes I'm despised, and it gives me the strength to go on. Come morning, I walk by the river. I'll rest near the evergreen tree. So I take one my cross to the midnight. Come morning, there's glory for me. Come morning, I walk Come on in, there's glory for me. Come on in, there's glory for me.
Amen, church. Are we having a wonderful time? Are we getting some of the wisdom from the man of God? We are very, very grateful to have Dr. Evans here and having our questions answered to the best of his ability. And we're going to continue with the questions and answers. So I'm asking the Fosters and Dr. Evans to come on in as we continue with the flow of what's going on here.
Welcome back to Sunrise SDA. For those who are online who are just tuning in, we are here with Dr. Evans. We are answering questions that were placed for us to ask him so that he could expand on different issues that are affecting not only men, but women. So at this time, we're going to continue our next segment. As you can see on the table, for those who are in the sanctuary, we have multiple papers scattered on the table right now that were not part of our initial question and answer period. So we're going to try to get through these questions as quickly as possible, as well as the ones that are still on the list. Hopefully everybody is still interested and we're answering questions that are relevant and pertinent to your health or someone that you might know so you can share this with them. This question was posted online. Should we try to drink only alkaline water? Is that an online question? Alkaline water, someone was asking.
The question of alkaline water is controversial. There are some individuals who say that the water we drink should be alkaline because we know that the body is normally slightly alkaline. We also know that if there is just a narrow shift toward the acid, there's illness. That's given, that's proven. We know that. However, some individuals drink alkaline water with the thought that if we drink alkaline water, since our bodies are mostly water, that it will help to make our bodies alkaline or help to keep our bodies alkaline. The jury is still out on this, and it is still controversial as to whether that actually happens. There isn't, to date, scientific proof that if you drink alkaline water, it will keep the body alkaline. So I will not say definitely that this is what happens or that it doesn't. The scientific answer to that is controversial.
All right. This question states, is bladder stone related to what you eat or drink? Should one get bladder stone if they eat plant-based?
The question is concerning bladder stones. Now, most stones are calcium-based. Most stones. But there are other kinds of stones also. There are some stones that don't contain any calcium. For example, I've taken stones out of the bladder that were just made of uric acid. Why would a person get a uric acid stone? Uric acid is a byproduct of protein metabolism. So as a person eats proteins and the proteins is processed, one of the waste products of that is uric acid. If the uric acid accumulates in the kidney or the bladder, it's called a uric acid kidney stone or a bladder stone. a uric acid stone, and it has nothing to do with plant-based diets. As a matter of fact, that's because a person has been eating an animal-based diet. The proteins from the animal is a part of the waste product. That's the reason why vegetarians hardly ever get gout. Vegetarians don't suffer from gout because uric acid is an acid, and vegetarians don't usually have an acid body. Vegetables make the body alkaline. And even if you got acid into the body, the alkalinity of your body would dissolve the acid. Now, I'm not saying it never happens, but generally speaking, this is the way it is. Now, there are other kinds of stones that can happen in the bladder also. And when a person gets a stone in the bladder, if he becomes aware of it, it is best to try to get rid of it or see a urologist who will take it out. Now, depending upon the size of the stone, it can be removed without actual surgery, or in the case of a large stone, it may require surgery. In the case of kidney stones, there was a time when surgery was the only way to get rid of a kidney stone. Today, kidney stones are gotten rid of without any open surgery. We can get rid of kidney stones by various techniques. Now, I was fortunate in that I was able to have some special training in doing this. I was trained in Israel, by the way. I did some studies, urological studies in Israel. And the Israeli are very good at this type of thing. In fact, they even manufacture machines to do these things in Israel. Stones can cause lots of problems. They can cause pain. And I've had women tell me I've had babies and I've had stones. I'd rather have a baby any day than they have a stone, from a pain point of view. So kidney stones can cause serious pains. I've had patients with stones who said they didn't know what was hurting. The pain was so bad they only knew they had pain. They couldn't even tell where the pain was. So we're talking about serious pain. Stones can cause infections. And the infections in turn can cause other problems in the body. An infection in the kidney can travel from the kidney to other parts of the body and cause other problems. So having a stone can be a very serious matter. How do you prevent it? Number one, drink a lot of water. The things that accumulate and coalesce to form a stone, it's best if it's kept diluted by keeping your body well hydrated and flushing these things out of the body. Again, water is so important. It's simple, but important. But stones can cause many, many problems.
This question is posed. It says, I have the itchies on my bottom. The doctor says that it is herpes. I got pills and I'm clean, but it does not help. What should I do?
Herpes is a virus, and herpes can cause misery. It can cause lots of pain. Usually it happens because a person has a deficient or a lowered immune system. Most viruses will attack a person whose immune system is not up to where it should be. Normally, we are all exposed to bacteria, various bacteria, and the viruses. If our immune system is as strong as it should be, we fight these things off naturally and we never know that they were there. In the case of herpes, herpes is a virus that can cause misery. It causes itching, burning, stinging, pain, and it can cause bleeding. If the rash of the herpes infection is exposed to bacteria, we can get what we call a secondary infection on top of the herpes infection. So herpes can cause lots of misery. If herpes gets into various parts of the body, it can cause problems depending upon where it attacks. For example, herpes can get into a man's urinary tract and cause problems with him ejaculating. So he can have infertility because of that. It can cause problem where after the herpes is gone, scars can form in the urinary tract and cause problem with him passing urine. In the female, some women are not able to conceive because of a herpes infection that causes problems with the cervix of the womb. And so there are a number of reasons why herpes is bad for the human body. And if you suspect that you have herpes, or if you know that you have herpes, you should see a doctor and have it treated. It is a treatable problem. Now, if you have herpes, one of the characteristics of herpes is that it tends to recur. If you take the appropriate medications, one of the things that happens is it may still recur, but it takes longer to come back. And if it does, it will last a shorter period of time than if you don't take a medication. And eventually, it stops recurring.
This question was posed for you, doctor. It says online, what was your diet regimen when you were diagnosed with cancer?
This is a very important question. How was I diagnosed with cancer in the first place? Around 1990, I went to a medical conference where a man who was not a doctor had this great big huge machine, something that he said he invented. And this machine was capable of detecting problems early, before the problem would even show up as symptoms. He wanted doctors to volunteer to use this machine so that he can show how he can make diagnoses before the problem even came up. I was one of the doctors who volunteered. Most of the doctors did not volunteer because they said nothing can do what this guy claimed it can do. I volunteered. The machine showed that something was not right about my prostate. Now, I'm a urologist. And I thought, like most of the other doctors, this guy really didn't know what he was talking about. Nobody can come up with something with a machine like that. The machine also said some other things about my body that I ignored, like most of the doctors. About 9 years later, I decided to go to the lab, get some lab work done, some blood tests, just to check on myself. I had no problems. I could walk or run any distance, do anything, no problems, no symptoms of anything, feeling perfectly fine. But my lab test showed that my PSA, prostate-specific antigen, that's the test for prostate cancer. Mine was abnormal. It was elevated, just like the machine said 9 years before. Well, what did I do? I went to the urologist, another urologist. Happened to be, because now I'm a urologist and blah, 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 I went to this world-famous urologist, the one who introduced me to the field of urology when I was a medical student. I went to my urology professor. He did a biopsy, the diagnosis, prostate cancer. Now, let me go back a bit. When I got my blood test results, I made a decision, not on the day that I got the results, not a day later. I made a decision in about 10 seconds after I saw my results. Now, what was the decision that I made? That's correct. Someone just said it. I immediately made the decision that I will go on an absolutely, definitely plant-based diet. And from then until now, my diet has been plant-based. And I'm here tonight talking to you. I'll leave that right there.
My husband has a few questions that he's going to ask you, but because you just mentioned the plant-based diet, this ties into a question that we have on the list. What do you consider to be a plant-based diet? Does that include for vegan products such as Beyond Burger, soy-based products, seedless fruits, and genetically modified fruits and vegetables?
Now, she just asked a few questions. What's a plant-based diet? Basically, a plant-based diet is eating meals that involve foods from the ground, foods that are grown from the plant, that are grown from the soil. There is a difference. It makes a difference in what you eat. Animals were not made for human beings to eat. I'm going to repeat that. It's a bold statement, but you need to hear it. Animals were not made for humans to eat. Plants were made for humans to eat. And there's some plants you shouldn't eat. It doesn't mean that you eat anything that grows from the ground. But what you should eat should come from the ground. Now, how do I know that? God said so. It is so important, he put it right at the beginning of the Bible. Genesis 1, first chapter in the Bible, the first book of the Bible, right up front. You should eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, and grains. It makes a difference. That's what we mean when we say plant-based. But now, what about these new products that are coming online? Should we eat them? If those products are made from plants, they're probably safe. But it depends on the manufacturing process, and it depends upon what else are put in those products. And there's nothing wrong with asking the manufacturer what's in this. Sometimes you'd be surprised at what's in it. That's what is plant-based. Now, the question of being a vegan. Now, a vegan is someone who doesn't eat anything from an animal. But not only that, a vegan doesn't use anything from an animal. A vegan wouldn't even use clothing that is made from an animal. So being a vegetarian is not the same as being a vegan. Vegetarian refers to what you're eating, whereas a vegan refers to anything or any use of anything from an animal. So there is a difference there. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Next question. If a male has a vasectomy, can that affect their sexual drive?
The question is, if a man has a vasectomy, what effect does that have on his sexual drive? A vasectomy is a surgical procedure where the little structure is called the vas deferens. That's a little tube that takes the sperm from the area of the testicle up to the area of the prostate for ejaculation to take place, for reproduction. The interruption of this little tube that transports the sperm is called a vasectomy. A vasectomy does not cause sexual problems. Functioning after the vasectomy is the same as it was before the vasectomy. A vasectomy does not cause cancer. So a man will not come down with cancer because he had a vasectomy. A vasectomy is safe, simple, relatively quick, and effective.
Thank you. All right, next question. My grandson is 10 and still wets the bed. How can we take care of that?
Bedwetting can happen at any age. It's common in young children. The medical word for bedwetting is enuresis. If a child or an adult, but I think this is in reference to a younger child, I think you said about 10 years old. At age 10, a child should be not only potty trained, but bed trained also. Now, bedwetting is common. It's a common event. Many children stop bedwetting as they get older. But if it's persisting, there may be medical reasons why bedwetting occurs. And there are a number of situations and conditions that may lead to bedwetting. For example, stress. Yes, children have stress. Stress at school, stress at play, stress in the family. These things can lead to bedwetting. Some children have bedwetting because the nervous system of the body is not fully matured, and the action of the nerves on the urinary bladder is not yet normal. So this may lead to bedwetting. Now, there are techniques that are used in some cases to help in bedwetting. There are medications that are very effective in treating a person and helping a person who has bedwetting, whether it's in a child, a juvenile, or an adult. Yes, bedwetting occurs in adults too. And oftentimes we're able to correct this without a problem.
Thank you. You just mentioned a PSA test, but what PSA level is bad?
The question is, what level of the PSA test is bad? The normal level for the prostate-specific antigen test, called a PSA, is from 0 to 4.0. From 0 up to 4.0. Gentlemen, this is only a guide. It does not say that if your PSA is less than 4, you won't get cancer. The lowest PSA that I've seen with cancer was 1.7. Now, there are doctors who will tell you if your PSA is below 4, you won't have cancer. Not true. I've seen differently. And there are some doctors who will tell you if your PSA is above 4, you've got cancer. That is not true. I've seen some very high PSA levels that had nothing to do with cancer. You see, there are some things that will cause the PSA to go up above 4 other than cancer. For example, I've seen patients who were referred to me by other doctors to be evaluated for prostate cancer because the PSA was high, way up above 4. And the reason it was elevated in those cases was because the doctor examined the prostate before the patient went to the lab. The examination of the prostate by the doctor irritated the prostate, and the PSA went up. The fact is, anything that irritates the prostate can cause the PSA to go up. An infection in the urine, an infection in the prostate can cause the PSA to go up above normal. Having sex before having the blood test done can cause the PSA to go up. I instruct my patients, if you're going to have a PSA test done, do not have sex within a week before having the blood test done, because just the act of having sex can cause the PSA levels to go up. Drinking caffeinated beverages like coffee, etc. Caffeine is an irritant, notoriously irritates the prostate. I have men, frequently I see men who have an elevated level, high levels of the PSA test. Looks like they have cancer. No, there's no cancer. The problem is the man has an irritated prostate, a condition we call prostatitis. Anything that irritates the prostate can cause the PSA to go up. But the urologist is the one who can tell the difference. So if the PSA is above the normal level, see a urologist, get his opinion as to why it's elevated. It's not always cancer.
Thank you so much, Dr. Evans. This question says, is it okay for me to buy and take capsules? I believe it's in liquid form because when I take the tablet form, it takes too long to get to my bloodstream.
Did that person mention the medicine or just
No.
in general?
Hold on, you need a mic. Unless it's private that you want to.
Yeah, thank you. What happened is that on me? I'm lacking in iron. Okay, the doctor says. So I've taken by over-the-counter tablet in tablet form, but it's still, my hands are white, so I switched to buying over-the-counter capsules, right? Capsule form. because I was told that the tablet don't get into the system. So that's the part of it that is missing. I think it's the wrong page.
Thank you. I understand now. I didn't recognize that that was not liquid but iron. I apologize. Thank you.
The question is the effectiveness of taking various forms of medicine. And specifically, the question refers to whether capsules will work better than tablets. Now, in her particular case, she's referring to a specific tablet. Let me answer that question generally, then I want to say something about that particular specific tablet. Tablets have to be dissolved and processed by the liver in order for it to work in the body. It depends upon the manufacturing of the tablet as to how quickly or how long it takes to dissolve. It also depends upon what's in the stomach already, what kind of food may be in the stomach. It also depends upon the acidity or the amount of hydrochloric acid in the stomach as to how that tablet dissolves. Some tablets won't dissolve at all in the stomach. They will dissolve after leaving the stomach and going to the next part of your digestive tract called the duodenum. So it depends on the particular tablet and the makeup of the tablet. Now, generally speaking, capsules may dissolve a little quicker because that's the way they're made. In fact, many medicines are put in capsule forms because of that. Now, the liver is the critical point in handling any medicine that you take. So it depends on the medicine. It depends upon the condition of your stomach when you take the medicine. And that is why some medicines are taken before meals or after meals or during meals. All of these little factors are important. That is why your doctor will tell you how and when to take a medication. Now, when it comes to over-the-counter medicines, you should know how it should be taken, and if you don't, you should seek advice on how to take it, whether it's a capsule or tablet. Now, I want to say something about this specific substance that you mentioned. You mentioned taking iron. There was a time when iron could be easily gotten over the counter. It's a bit difficult now to find iron over the counter. There was a time when you can buy vitamins with iron very commonly. Now it's difficult to find vitamins with iron. There's a reason for that. We now know that iron, despite the fact that it is so important in the body and does so much good, particularly for the blood, we know that many people have had problems with the heart because of the iron that was being taken. Iron in certain forms is not the best thing for you. And if you're going to take iron, there's certain forms of iron that may be safe for some folk and not safe for others. So you have to be careful in taking iron, whether it's in a liquid form, capsule, or tablet. Your doctor should be able to guide you in this, and it's very, very important.
Well, we thank you so much, Doctor, for expanding on that. On a different subject matter, sister, we can ask after the service. We'll get to you on that question. On a totally different subject matter, can the curvature of the penis, I think it's referred to as Peyronie's disease, be reversed without surgical intervention?
Peyronie's disease is a challenge. This is a problem first discovered in the year 1793. So we've known about Peyronie's for a long time. It is a challenge, but what is it? Peyronie's is a condition where scar-like tissue hardens and forms in a certain layer of tissue in the male penis. Now, the organ that we call the penis should be able to stretch at the appropriate time. During erections, it stretches. However, if a man gets this condition called Peyronie's, that tissue that is scar-like doesn't stretch if he gets in a correction. Because it doesn't stretch and the rest of the penis is stretching, that part that doesn't stretch pulls on the penis, that area of the penis, and the penis curves. So yes, fellas, some guys do throw curves. Somebody caught on to what I just said. Okay. Peyronie's can be a painful condition. In some men, it's very painful during erection. In some men, there's no pain. Depending upon the degree of the curvature, it could interfere with a man performing sexually. In some men, it may even interfere with him getting an erection in the first place. So, what about correcting this? Now, medically, it is very difficult to correct Peyronie's. I have tried virtually everything you can imagine to correct Peyronie's. There is no medication thus far known that universally corrects Peyronie's. Some men will get rid of Peyronie's simply over a period of time, it'll go away. In most men, it does not resolve spontaneously, and it is something he lives with. If the curvature is severe, there are procedures for straightening the penis. Sometimes these procedures are very successful, sometimes not. But Peyronie's is a challenge, and if it is not very severe, most men learn to live with it. If it is severe, then we try to do the best that we can to help that individual.
Thank you. It says, each time I do my urine test, blood shows up in my urine. However, all the tests done, even using the camera, my urine tract looks perfect. Why?
The question is, why is there blood in my urine? There are many things that can cause blood in the urine. For example, there are medications that a person may take, like blood thinners, that can cause blood to appear in the urine. Some individuals who have heart problems have to take blood thinners to stop blood clots in the circulatory system. These blood thinners can cause blood to appear in the urine. If that is the case, then the person's cardiologist has to regulate the dosage of the blood thinner so that it will not cause blood in the urine. There are some foods that may cause thinning of the blood. If a person overeats garlic, for example, or takes an excess amount of vitamin E, it can thin the blood and cause blood in the urine. So there are various reasons why a person may have blood in the urine. Any irritation in the urinary tract, like stones in the kidneys, stones in the bladder, and these kinds of things may cause blood in the urine. Infections in the urinary tract may result in blood in the urine. There are some situations where blood may appear and we don't know why and cannot find out why. So every time there's blood in the urine, it doesn't necessarily mean there's something seriously wrong, but blood in the urine may be the only sign that there is something seriously wrong in a person's body. So if there's blood in the urine and you don't know exactly why, don't take it lightly. Have a urologist to check it out. You see, there are so many reasons, so many things why a person may have blood in the urine. By the way, sickle cell, the sickle cell disease is a problem in many, many people. people with sickle cell disease don't usually bleed, but a person with sickle cell trait tend to bleed from the kidney. There are some situations where a person will, and I've seen situations where a person would bleed from the kidney and there's blood in the urine, and we can never find out why. Check everything, and nothing is found. There are some situations where athletes will have blood in the urine, a condition we call pseudonephritis, meaning inflammation or irritation of the kidney. It happens after exercising. And in order to stop it, drink a lot of water, rest, it stops. Now, there are conditions where, and I've had a number of occasions to deal with this. A person would come in, "Doc, what's wrong with me? I'm peeing blood. What's causing this?" And the gentleman is surprised when I say, "Your blood is red, but there's no blood in your urine." Every red urine is not blood. There are other conditions that may cause your urine to turn red, but not from blood. It may be from something you're eating, something you've had to drink, or some other condition why it's red. There may be a condition with your muscles that causes the urine to turn red, something we call myoglobinuria. Remember, doctors use a lot of big words for everything. And this is because the breakdown of muscle tissue causes these things to get into the blood, into the urine, turn the urine red, but it's not blood. So every red urine is not blood. If you do not know why there's blood in your urine, have your urologist to check it out.
Well, Dr. Evans, in 1 Corinthians it says, for one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge by the same Spirit. So I hope that you guys are taking these words of wisdom and listening to them. At this time, I'm going to ask you a little change in subject. We respect medicine, yet our society is always looking for alternatives to the traditional. Does cayenne and apple cider vinegar mixture help with impurities in the vessels, including the male organs?
I will not speak directly concerning anyone's specific formula. Now, there are reasons why I won't do that. At the same time, let me say this. I am a strong believer, and I repeat, I am a strong believer in herbal medicine. Let me repeat that. I am a strong believer in herbal medicine. Now, what are my reasons for saying that? Remember, I mentioned there's something in the last chapter of the last book of the Bible, Revelation 22. The leaves for the healing. That's herbs. Most illnesses can be helped with the proper herbs. So there's nothing wrong with using herbal formulas. I encourage it. I encourage my patients to use them. As a matter of fact, in my practice and in my office, there are a number of herbal formulas that I created myself and use them very successfully with my patients. I have no problem with herbal formulas. Now, a specific formula, I would have to know what that formula is and know some things about it before giving an opinion on it.
Okay, you just mentioned about your medications, right? Are you able to send medications from the Bahamas to the U.S.?
The question is, if someone in the U.S. wants one of my formulas, can I send it to that person? Unfortunately not. Now, I've discussed this with the U.S. Customs. Now, the rule is this. If I prescribe a medication, whether it's one of my formulas or otherwise, if I prescribe a medication for a patient in the Bahamas. It is legal. I'm talking about American law. It is legal for that person to take his own supply back into the United States with him. If it is not commercial quantities. Now, he cannot take it back for another person, and he cannot take quantities back to sell. But if it's his own personal supply that was prescribed for him, it's legal for him to travel with it. In fact, there are times when I would prescribe medication for a person and I would simply make sure it's properly labeled for that person, or I would write a note saying, I prescribed this for so-and-so. Going through the U.S. Customs, it's not a problem. However, I am not allowed to send it to him into the United States. Customs rules. And they make the rules. I only follow them.
We thank you for that, Doctor. Now, let me let you know, ladies and gentlemen and boys and girls, Dr. Evans was not prepped on any of these questions that we have. We had access to the questions, but he did not. So if he's not able to answer the next question that I have for him, then we are going to allow him to be able to research it and get back to us the next time he comes back to visit us, right? Amen? Amen? Come on, church. All right. Dr. Evans, you say you believe in the healing properties of the herbs. Herb, let me clarify that. You say you believe in the healing property of herbal medicine. Have you ever heard of the small flowered willow herb? And if so, do you know if it can help your kidney health and your renal system?
I am not familiar with that name. Sorry.
All right, that's perfectly honest. And that's why I wanted to make sure. That's why I let you guys know these are real questions on the spot. Nothing has been prepped. So we will look into that and we'll get back to that answer the next time he comes back to us. All right.
Right. Does animal diet, as you spoke of, include fish? Is fish a good option, and is plant-based no fish?
I am often asked this question when I talk about an animal-based diet. And the question is, what's an animal? What is an animal? Well, let me tell you my definition of an animal. An animal is anything that can look back at you. Yeah, that's my answer. Yes.
All right, well, case closed. How should CoQ10, I have to remember how to pronounce that, CoQ10 be taken, and also magnesium, and how should vitamin D be taken?
By mouth. That's the answer. That's the answer.
I just can't help myself. That was really perfect, actually. You already mentioned the benefits and that they help us with. So I think the person was wanting to ask
Dosages.
how should they take it? Yes.
Yes. CoQ10 is a very, very important substance. It's a natural substance that is found in certain green leafy vegetables, etc. It is particularly important for the heart and muscles. CoQ10 has saved many, many lives. It's one of the things that we know makes plant diet so important. So important. There are substances that are good for the human body that is not found in any meat-based diet, but are common in plant-based diets. CoQ10 is one of those substances. By the way, if you're wondering, do I take CoQ10? Have I taken it? I'll tell you the last time I took some, this morning. And why did I take CoQ10 this morning? I like my heart. And I'm going to do whatever I could to keep my heart going. and my muscles. CoQ10 is an important substance, and I recommend it highly, like vitamin D. Now, how much should you take? It depends on your condition. Your physician or your healthcare provider should guide you in this. Now, I recommend that you discuss this with your healthcare provider. Now, all healthcare providers are not up to date in the information. What that means is you should get into the habit of looking up information yourself. Nobody, your doctor or anybody else, nobody can take care of you better than you can take care of yourself. Become knowledgeable. Become knowledgeable. Learn about these things. Learn about the substances that you put into your body. In fact, you shouldn't put anything into your body that you don't know about. Very important. I mentioned vitamin D. Now, how much CoQ10 or how much vitamin D should you take? On the average, I recommend that you take around 100 milligrams of CoQ10 per day if you don't have any active cardiovascular problems. Depending upon the problem, you may need to take a whole lot more. Let me give you an example. The sister of one of my employees came down with heart failure. In her hospital room, I was present when her doctor told her the only thing that will save her life is a heart transplant. Now, this was a hospital in which a heart transplant had never been done. And there was no, almost zero chance of a heart transplant being done in that hospital. That meant she should prepare herself for the worst. She asked to be discharged so that she can die at home. I was present when that happened. After the doctor left her room, I said to her, "Don't worry about it. You're going to be fine." Because she could hardly talk, she whispered to me when I said to her, "First pray about it." She whispered to me and said, "I'm doing that already." She was discharged from the hospital, and here's what I did. I went to the drugstore and bought her some CoQ10. I put her on 600 milligrams of CoQ10 per day, along with 500 milligrams of magnesium. In a few weeks, that woman who was dying was back to work, working full-time, and doing quite well. CoQ10, that's how good CoQ10 is for the heart. There's another substance that is very good for the heart, cayenne pepper. It is, I've never done it, but I've been told by a number of individuals, if an individual has a heart attack, no matter how massive the heart attack is, no matter how severe it is, if you can get CoQ10 into that person will not die. And now there are individuals who keep cayenne capsules with them at all times, because if they have a heart problem or a heart attack, individuals around them are instructed, make sure they get their cayenne into them.
Dr. Evans, clarify that for us again. You said to keep the cayenne capsules or the CoQ10? Because you said CoQ10. Cayenne, right?
Personally, I recommend either one. But most people would be comfortable with CoQ10 rather than the cayenne for various reasons.
So, Doctor, my husband has one last question for you before we take a break. We will have a musical selection, and then we're going to come back with the final segment before we have Vespers. So he's going to ask you this question, and that will give people the last few moments to get their questions in. I know it's been a very long section so far, but I hope that you guys have been blessed.
All right. What is the main cause of urinary incontinence in men and women?
The question is concerning the causes of urinary incontinence. Urinary incontinence means a person is involuntarily losing urine. Now, this happens in men and women. Ladies first, let's talk about the women. The losing of the urine in women may occur because the muscles that control her urination may be weakened. And the weakening of those muscles allow the urine to flow out without her wanting to pass the urine. This is often seen in women who've had a lot of babies. Over a period of time, having a lot of babies can cause a weakening of pelvic muscles. And for that reason, the bladder control isn't what it used to be. And a woman may find herself losing urine when there's stress put on the bladder, like coughing or sneezing or laughing or walking upstairs or lifting heavy loads. These are the things that may trigger a loss of the urine. Some women may lose urine because the muscle is so weak, even if she doesn't do any of these things I just mentioned, she may just lose her urine. This kind of problem is usually easily correctable by a urologist. So if it happens to you ladies, see a urologist. The urologist can advise you, and there are ways that he can do testing to find out if surgery is warranted or if this can be corrected with medicine or whatever. But it's usually a correctable problem. In men, the loss of urine involuntarily sometimes happens after prostate surgery. Now, a man may have surgery on his prostate because he was having a problem passing urine. The one thing a urologist doesn't want to see happen in a man is to not be able to control his urine after prostate surgery. Now, the common surgery that a man may have because he had problem passing urine before surgery, for example, as a man gets older, the prostate gets larger. Sometimes the enlargement will obstruct the bladder, so he has difficulty passing urine. This can be corrected surgically. A complication of that surgery may be the loss of controlling the urine. No urologist wants to see that happen, but it can happen. Now, during my 40-some years of doing this kind of surgery, I've had it happen to 2 patients. So it's possible to happen. I was talking to someone recently who said she knows of this happening to 90% of the patients having that kind of surgery by a certain doctor. So she wanted my opinion. My opinion was he needs to review his license. You missed what I just said. Oh, you got it, okay. No, this is a rare complication, but it happens. I've seen it happen. It happened twice to me. Fortunately, thank God, in both cases, I was able to correct the problem, and the patients did very well. Amen. Now, in men who have prostate cancer, who have surgery for that, after the surgery, most men are not able to control the urine for a period of time immediately after the surgery. That is why, after having that kind of surgery, a man will have a catheter in his bladder through which the urine will automatically drain for a few days after the surgery until his bladder becomes accustomed again controlling his urine. Occasionally, very occasionally, a man may lose his ability to control the urine after that kind of surgery. That's a big challenge, but the urologist is the one who knows how to correct that. So these things do happen, but they're usually a correctable problem.
Thank you, Doc.
All right, thanks so much, Doctor. Now we'll take that second break.
You don't think you're so lucky. I'm not going to do me alone. I need your help, right? Yes. The first word of this song says together. So I'm going to ask you to join me as we sing number 451. Together, let us sweetly live. I'm bound for the land of Canaan. Here we go. Together let us sweetly live. I am bound for the land of Canaan. Together love to Jesus give. Can't hear you. Oh, Canaan, bright Canaan, I'm bound for the land of Canaan. Oh, Canaan, it is my happy home. I am bound for the land of Together let us watch and pray. I am bound for the land of Canaan and await redemption's joyous day. I am bound for the land of Canaan. Oh, Canaan, bright Canaan, I'm bound for the land of Canaan. Oh, Canaan, it is my happy home. I am bound for the land of. All right now, songs of praise shall fill the skies. Our songs of praise shall fill the skies. I am bound for the land of. While higher still, our joys shall rise. I am bound for the land of Canaan. Oh, Canaan, bright Canaan, I'm bound for the land of Canaan. Oh, Canaan, it is my happy home. I am bound for the land of Canaan. Then come with me, beloved friend. I am bound for the land of Canaan. The joys shall never end. I am bound for the land of Canaan. Oh, Canaan, bright Canaan, I'm bound for the land of Canaan. Oh, Canaan, it is my happy home. I am bound for the land of Canaan. Amen. Amen.
Amen, brethren. Okay, so we will be going to a final segment, and then we will close off with our Vesper thought. We're just waiting on the panel to refresh themselves and be back. I'm quite happy the questions that you guys are asking, because it tells me that you guys are very concerned about your health and that you want to do better in life in terms of your health choices. And we know that those health choices are also connected with your mental health and your state of mind, and that will be coming into question pretty soon. All right, so I'll just turn over to our panel once more.
Okay, welcome back. We thank you for all those who are still online and those who are in the center that have stayed so far. We hope that your questions are being answered. Just a clarification, doctor. Can CoQ10 and magnesium be taken together?
Can CoQ10 and magnesium be taken together? I often recommend them together. Yes, they can be taken together.
Thank you.
Before we took a break, there's another part of the question that we talked about concerning taking medications like CoQ10 for the heart and for other problems. And I mentioned vitamin D. I want to say something about the taking of vitamin D. And this is important. Vitamin D is not truly a vitamin. It is actually a hormone. It's one of the substances that the body makes upon exposure to sunlight. Now, don't worry about the fact that it's called a vitamin, although medically it may be identified as a hormone. Don't worry about that. The important thing is to recognize how important it is in the human body. And I recommend that most of us should take vitamin D. You need to be aware of what it does for you. Vitamin D is antibacterial, is antiviral, is antifungal. It fights all those things. Vitamin D also boosts your immune system. Vitamin D is a substance that virtually every person who has cancer is deficient in. I've never seen a man with prostate cancer who was not deficient in vitamin D. And I've never seen a woman with breast cancer who wasn't deficient in vitamin D. And as far as I have been able to determine, it's difficult to find any cancer patient who is not deficient in vitamin D. So vitamin D is important. There are many, many functions in the body that need vitamin D. Vitamin D is what we call a gene modulator. That means the genes in your cells can be affected by vitamin D. In other words, vitamin D has the ability to turn on genes or turn them off. That's important when it comes to resistance to diseases. So vitamin D is probably, in my opinion, one of the most important of all of the vitamins that you can take. Vitamin D is so important, God made it available to you for free. All you have to do is to get into the sun, and your body will make it. Now, many of us will not get enough vitamin D from sun exposure. Now, if you're dark like me and go into the sun, you probably won't get enough sun to make enough vitamin D that the body needs. So what should you do? Supplement it by taking vitamin D capsules or drops or whatever way you want to take it. Now, if you're light-skinned like some of my friends and you spend time into the sun, you get sunburn. So instead of getting vitamin D, you get another problem. So what do? You supplement your taking of vitamin D. Now, how much vitamin D should you take? The United States government recommends, through the FDA, recommends that you should take 400 units. It's measured in units. 400 units of vitamin D. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason I'm emphasizing this is because it's that important. 400 units of vitamin D will do exactly nothing for most individuals. So you're wasting your time and money taking 400 milligrams per day. We know where the figure 400 came from. That's the amount of vitamin D that prevents bone problems in infants. Grown people are not infants. So the 400 units is not going to help you. So how much should you take? The Institute of Medicine here in the United States is recommending to the government that the average person should take at least 2,000 units per day. I take vitamin D almost every day. How much do I take? In my particular case, I take 5,000 units per day. If I feel a cold coming on or anything else, I up that in an instant. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. One of my employees came down with a heavy dose of the flu. Her eyes were running, turning red. She was aching all over, coughing, etc. Here's what I had her to do. 25,000 units of vitamin D that day. That night before going to bed, she took another 25,000 units. That meant she had taken 50,000 units that day. The next morning, she took another 25,000 units of vitamin D. And as sick as she was, what happened? The next day, she was back to work and she'd almost forgotten she had the flu. That's how effective it is. Just vitamin D. Stuff from the sun. So vitamin D is very important, and I suggest and I urge that you should keep it around. You should take it every day, and a lot of things won't happen to you if you're on vitamin D.
All right, thank you. All right, this one says urine trickles, went to urologist and got dilated, but it never worked. The doctor says she cannot figure out what the problem is. Should I be concerned?
I think I heard you say she.
Yes.
So I assume we're talking about a lady who had a procedure done called a dilation. Now, the word dilation means to open up or to stretch. Now, men and women may have problems properly emptying the bladder or passing urine. In the case of a female, this is something called a urethral stenosis, a narrowing of the opening from the bladder. This may interfere with the normal emptying of her bladder. Why does this occur? One of the most common causes of this is the female is using bubble baths. Most females like to be sweet and fresh and dainty. So bubble baths are used as a way to make them feel good, smell good, and etc. But it's not a good thing to do. I do not recommend that any female at any age, from infancy to old age, I do not recommend the use of bubble baths in any female. It causes problems. Now, why does it cause a problem? The chemicals in the bubble baths tend to float on the bubbles and easily get into the urethra. The urethra, the passage from the bladder to the outside, is only about a half an inch or an inch at the most. in females. And it's very easy for these chemicals to get into the urethra, irritate the urethra, and over a period of time cause scars, thin little scars to form and cause problems emptying the bladder. Very common problem. One of the things that keep urologists in business. So I recommend, if you have bubble baths, get rid of them, don't use them. I don't recommend them for any female. In the case of a male, there are other things that will cause a narrowing in the passage called the urethra, through which the urine empties from the bladder. This may also require what we call a dilation. The instruments we can put into the urethra and stretch and open it up so that the urine can be freely passed in males. So this can happen in males or females. If you have such a problem, have your urologist to check it out.
Right, and a follow-up question. What if the urine doesn't come out, but there's always an urge to urinate, even when you have just finished urinating?
If a person has the urge to urinate right after he urinates, it means that he's not emptying the bladder. When you pass urine, you should completely empty the bladder. If you're not completely emptying the bladder, then something's wrong. And you need to find out why you're not completely emptying the bladder. Now, an exception to that is there may be something in the bladder that's causing you to feel like you need to urinate. I mean, it may not be urine that needs to come out. There may be something else, like a stone in the bladder. A stone can irritate the bladder and make you feel like you need to go, because that's the bladder trying to get empty. So if this is happening to you, I recommend that you consult a urologist and have it checked out.
Doctor, is it true that women losing urine is caused by the removal of the uterus? Is it true that women losing urine is caused by the removal of the uterus?
The question is, can removal of the uterus cause a woman having these problems with the urine? No. The removal of the uterus is not the cause of the problem. Many women have the uterus removed every day. That operation is a very, very common operation. That's not the cause of this problem. The cause of this problem is something else happens along with the removal of the womb. There may be some damage done to the structures that control the urine during the removal of the uterus. And as a result, a woman may have problems controlling her urine. Most of the times, this is correctable. So if a woman has had her uterus removed and she's having a problem with the urine, she needs to either get back to her gynecologist or see a urologist.
Thank you, Doctor. There's multiple questions in this regard. We thank you, men, for allowing us to take the moment to be able to talk about our women's health issues as well. What would cause discomfort in the pelvic area if a cystoscopy was done, a biopsy was done, and there's no trace of cancer? There's also a second part of this question, but I'm not going to be able to expand on it because it's something about the test results.
Let me interrupt you a moment.
Yes.
Is that referring to a male or female?
That's a good question. No indication. Yes. There's something that was done. I mean, it says pelvic area. I mean, it could be either one. But an MRI was done, and it shows something on the test, but I can't tell the initials of what that something is. So I'm not sure if you're going to be able to decipher that to see if it's going to be able to be discussed. But they just want to know if what's causing the discomfort if everything was done and there's no trace of cancer. What could be possible causes?
It's difficult to answer this question because I don't know if we're referring to a male or female, or we don't know what was found during this MRI scan. So I would need to have a little more specific information in order to answer this particular question.
So can you answer in regards to if it was a woman?
With this kind of problem, it's a bit vague. For example, it is said a cystoscopy was done and a biopsy was done. Now, I don't know what was biopsied. In the case of a female, was it your cervix that was biopsied? Was it the womb, the uterus that was biopsied? Or was it the vaginal biopsy or the ovarian biopsy? I don't know. So it's difficult for me to answer this because I don't know what this is in reference to.
Thank you, doctor.
If it were a male, was it your prostate that was biopsied? Or was it a testicular biopsy? I don't know. So it's difficult to answer that because I don't know what this is in reference to.
Well, I'm glad that you said that about the testicular biopsy. There was a question posed earlier that said, what are signs and symptoms of testicular cancer and bladder cancer? Is that something that you can answer for us quickly? Time is running down, and we have a few more questions that we want to get to you before they tell us that we can't ask you any questions anymore.
Testicular biopsy is done for various reasons. If cancer is suspected, a biopsy, meaning taking a piece of tissue to check for cancer, may be warranted. If a man has a problem of infertility, we may biopsy or take a piece of tissue from the testicle to test it to see if that testicle is ill or not, whether there's a problem normally producing sperm or not. There are various reasons for doing these biopsies. And getting tissue and examining the tissue often reveals the pathology or what's wrong in the tissue.
Thank you, doctor.
Right now, this one says, is distilled water best for kidney failure? And follow up, how to raise the pH level in the body at 5.5 pH?
A body with a pH of 5.5 is not normal. The normal pH is 7.4. A pH of 5.5, very acid. I recommend, if you have a pH of 5.5 or any fluid in your body has a pH of 5.5, I recommend that you see your healthcare provider and ask some questions about it. That's not normal. I don't know why you have that level, but it needs to be checked out.
Doctor, what about distilled water? Is it best for kidney failure?
The question is whether distilled water is good for kidney failure. Not necessarily. Water is important, but it doesn't have to be distilled water. As a matter of fact, you'll never find distilled water in nature. Let me repeat that. You don't find distilled water anywhere in nature. But water is important, and lots of it is important. So there must be a difference. Distilled water is something that is made by making steam from water and collecting that, and we call it distilled water. That is, everything has been taken out of the water. Natural water does not exist as just water molecules alone. Most natural water contains minerals and other substances, things that the body needs.
Doctor, I have 7 questions and we have 3 minutes, so let's see if we can do this. Does the COVID injection cause breast cancer, yes or no?
No.
All right, can an enlarged prostate be treated without surgery?
Yes.
Why do women suffer from boils on their labia?
I didn't get that.
Why do women suffer from boils on the labia or the area of the vagina?
A boil is an infection. Needs to be treated or removed.
Okay, is it true that women losing urine is caused, oh, we already asked that one, I apologize about that, that was a duplicate. How can you build your blood platelets and bone marrow if you have cancer?
The bone marrow is very important. Most of the blood in the body is made in the bones. So what happens with your bones is very, very important. One of the things about the bones is that oftentimes when a person has cancer, the cancer may spread from where it is to the bones. Because the blood is made primarily in bones, it means that if you have cancer, your blood count may be low. Your hemoglobin, for example, may be low because the bone is not producing blood as it normally should. That's one of the things that makes cancer so dangerous. Your energy level may go down, etc., etc. So it's very, very important.
Does pepper in any form aggravate the prostate?
Yes, too much pepper can irritate the prostate and cause what we call prostatitis.
Right,
It's
doctor.
treatable.
Okay. Have you ever treated any patient with 3 tubes to the bladder instead of the normal 2? And what is the cause of having 3 tubes?
I didn't hear the first part of the question.
Have you ever treated any patient with 3 tubes to
3
the bladder?
tubes.
Right, instead of the normal 2. And what is the cause of having 3 tubes?
Now, again, this question is a bit vague. I'm not sure of what tubes we're talking about here. Now, there are lots of tubes in the body. Do you have any idea which tubes they're referring to?
They have, instead of having the normal 2 urethral, they have, instead of having 2 urethral, they have 3
Which?
connections. Instead of having 2, instead of having 2 ureters, they have 3. They're asking if you have ever treated.
Are you
one.
talking about the ureters?
Yes.
The tubes that drain the urine from the kidneys?
Yes, they have 3 instead of 2. Or they're asking.
That's
for
very
one that
common.
has 3.
Yeah, that's very common. That's not a big deal. That's not a big deal at all. If you have 3 tubes from your kidneys draining urine to the bladder, and you're not having a problem with the urine draining from the bladder to the kidney, there's no problem to be corrected. As a matter of fact, that finding is very common.
Thank you, doctor. What kind of screening can you do for yourself without going to the doctor when it comes to men's health?
Man, how can you screen yourself? If you're not a doctor, you're not going to do very well screening yourself. I suggest that you get yourself a health care provider who is trained to do screening properly. Self-screening is not the way to do that if you're talking about your prostate and other reproductive organs.
Dr. Evans, we thank you. I hope that we were able to answer some of your questions. I just want to let you know, to another, faith by the same Spirit. To another, the gifts of healing by the same Spirit. To another, the working of miracles. To another, prophecy. To another, discerning of spirits. To another, diverse kinds of tongues. To another, the interpretations of tongues. But all of these worketh that one and the self-same Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he will. We thank you. At this time, I'm going to invite Elder Campbell to come up. And don't move, Doctor. He's going to come up and talk to you. We'll take leave. And we thank you so much for your attention.
Check. All right, please don't mistake me for Elder Campbell. I'm not so handsome. Number 439. How far from home? I asked, as on I bent my steps, the watchman spake.
How far from home I asked as on
I bent my steps,
the watchman spake. The long, long night is almost
gone,
the morning
soon will break. Then weep no more,
but speed
thy flight with hope's bright star, thy guiding ray, till thou shalt
reach the realms of light.
in everlasting day. I asked the
Warrior on the
field, this was his soul-inspiring courage bold,
though sword I'll
wield, the battle is not long. conflict till thy work is done. For this we know the prize is sure when victory is won. I asked again a sea and the sun and sea to make reply. Wasting suns are nearly run. Eternity is not. Come on now. Then weep no more with warning tones. Portentous signs are thickening around. The whole creation waiting groans to hear the trumpet sound. Not far from home, oh blessed fought, the travelers lonely hard to cheap, which oft our healing balm has brought and dried the mourner's tears. Then weep no more, shall meet where weary footsteps never roam, or trials of past, or joys complete, safe in our Father's home. God's people say amen. We certainly look forward to getting home. What do you say?
Brethren, what do you say? Amen. I say that the time has been long spent, and so I will not keep you any longer. But I just want to mention one thing as our Vesper thought, and that is that the Lord wishes us to be of good health let me read it again. I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in good health, even as thy soul prospereth. And, coming up shortly, you will find that you will be tested, both your mind and your faith. And so we need to have a healthy body in order to pass that test. Now, we can say anything right now because we are living in some sort of a comfort. But as I mentioned in my class today, when you stand in front of that firing squad for your faith, that's when the real test comes into play. And so I personally want to thank Dr. Evans for these valuable information that he has given us. We cannot pay him for what he has given us. And the value of it is immeasurable. We won't even know how valuable those information is right now until further on in our lives when the rubber hits the road. And so Dr. Evans, I'm not even trying to make light of the situation, how thankful we are for you to be here with us this weekend. It has been a pleasure from taking you up from the airport until even now. And so we want to thank you, Dr. Evans. We also want to thank Elder Staple, who is our first elder and in charge of this church, for his support and for making, and also the board, the church board, for making this particular program possible. I also want to thank the men of the men's ministry department, and if they're here, I just wanted to come up so you can see who are the men that are behind this program and made it so seamlessly. You know, there's a lot that goes into a program such as this, and some of the things that happen behind the scene, we don't even know. but we want to thank the men of the men's ministry department for helping to put on a program like this. And so we are really grateful to you men. We want to thank the entire church for the support. Look at how beautiful you are this evening and how many you are. We want to thank the church for their support. We want to thank the Fosters for being our moderators this evening and all the platform parties. You know, I almost thought that they did this for a living. The way how good they phrase the questions and rephrase them, you know, in order for us to get the proper answer. So I want to thank them especially. And most importantly, I want to thank God for making this thing possible. Amen. Right? Because no matter our best effort, if God is not in it, you can forget it. And if you deem this program to be a blessing to you, then you know where it starts, and that's with God. So we thank him for giving us this opportunity, for allowing Dr. Evans to come from where he came from in the Bahamas, here safely, and for the communion that we had with him throughout this whole process. And I'm just overwhelmed with how the program worked and how it came off. And for that, I just want to say thank you. Amen. All right, so we will just now close off here because it's been a long day. So can you bow your heads as we pray? Most gracious Lord, you have asked us to be of good health. And dear Father, this is a stepping stone in that process. We thank you for the valuable information that Dr. Evans has given to us. We ask you, O God, to continue to bless him, bless his family, bless his private practice, and bless him wherever he goes around this world. Ellen White has said oftentimes, O God, that there is importance in a man who will stand when the heavens fall, a man that will not be bought or sold. And we see that embodied in Dr. Evans. So we ask that you continue to bless him, continue to bless this church as we promote and present these programs that are able to help our entire church. More importantly, this particular one that will help men to start taking their health seriously and going out and visit the doctor. Dear Lord, we are gracious to you for all that you have done for us, all the blessing that you have bestowed upon us. Dear Lord, at times we don't even understand how you work, but we can see the fruits of it. And so we ask that you continue to bless us as we go out into this untried week. We know not what lies ahead, but we know who holds our hand and who holds the future. And so we want to rest our lives and our cares in you and ask you, O God, to do the rest for us. We know that coming down the road, if we live long enough, there will be a serious test. We ask, dear Lord, that you'll help us to be faithful to that end. And when everything is all said and done, we too want to be part of that number that will go up in heaven and be with you forevermore. These and other unmentioned mercies I ask in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. Sabbath here shall learn, and from his courts we move. May we an endless Sabbath spend in heavenly courts above. Good night, everyone.